Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Let's begin the day with giving charity. Tzedakah makareves is a geula. It says that tzedakah makes the redemption come quicker. And what do we need more than the redemption? There should be peace in the world. There should be productivity in the world. There should be love in the world and happiness in the world. Here we go. Charity. Now, step one. Step two. Let us continue learning where we left off yesterday in this beautiful book, the Sefer. Sefer means book in Hebrew, called Torah Or, which was written by the first Rebbe of Chabad about 200 years ago, 250 years ago. And its words ring true right now. It's talking about where evil comes from. Where evil comes from. You probably noticed there's a lot of bad things going on in the world. And there's a lot of bad people in the world. And the world is very confused now. A lot of people think what is really bad is really good. What is really good is really bad. It's really coming to a big head now. And basically it's starting to revolve around, the whole world is starting to revolve around Israel. Israel and the Jewish people and the Jewish people in Israel. And soon it's going to boil down to the Torah. Soon it's going to boil down to the Torah, because the only thing that really defines what a Jew is the Torah, and what defines the land of Israel is the Torah, and what defines good and bad is the Torah. On the other hand, we see that the Torah is just one book in the library. There's a lot of books in the library. If you ever go into a library, there's books and books in the library. And there was, I remember I learned in the University of Michigan. Sometimes I went to the library. Then the library was like, a building that was 10 stories high. I don't know how high it was, 5 stories high. And every story was just packed with books, all sorts of books that people wrote that are out of print already, and books that are weird, strange books. I looked over there. I was interested in that before I was religious, and occult and all these different religions. It's just, things you couldn't believe that wrote over there. All sorts of books and books and books. And one of the books is the Bible. And one of the books is the Jewish Bible, which is outnumbered, 10 million to 1. So it's just a book, another book. But in fact, it's the only book that even claims, as far as I know, that's written by the creator of the universe. Personally written by the creator. I don't think you have too many books over there that are written by the creator of the universe. But anyway, that's what it is, creator of the universe. And he's never really come to claim rights, on the book, but there it is. And every letter is exact. All the Jews have been reading this for like the last 3,300 years in public. Here it is. So that's the war between good and bad. What's the war between good and bad? The war between good and bad is, are you going to go according to, pick any one of those 20 million books, or however many the books there are, go according to that, or are you going to go according to the Torah? Or even forget about the books. Don't even go into the library. You can write your own book. Write your own book. Be your own God. It says, since Adam ate from the tree, as the snake said to Chava, the day you eat from the tree, then you're going to be like God, knowing good and bad. In other words, you're going to be able to decide what's good and bad. And why not? Why not? Why not? I mean, that's the way the world has been going for a long time. So that's the battle going on here between Yaakov and Eisav. The battle of why not? That's the battle. Why not go according to the Torah? Or why yes go according to the Torah? Why should I go against my own nature, God-given nature, and do things that are opposite what I want to do? Why can't I just, do whatever I want? Why do I have to go according to this one book, which is called the Torah? So that's the point what Yaakov is trying to bring into the world. It says Yaakov knew the Torah before it was given, and you have to remember that Yaakov's twin brother was Eisav, so they weren't that much different. Their upbringing was exactly the same. Which that sort of shoots down the ideas of, you can be excused because of your upbringing and your society, the society you were in. and societal, what is it? Your product of your environment. People can be product of their environment if they don't use their power of choice. A person can choose. So that's the battle over here. Yaakov wants Eisav to choose not to be product of his environment. To choose to go according to the will of the Creator and not of the creation. Big battle. So it can start out. I mean, there's a lot of really nice things in the creation. There's music, there's art, there's kindness, there's beauty, harmony, beautiful. Then there's heroism, and there's genius, and there's this. So there's a lot of good things in the world, a lot of good things in the world. But it depends what you mean is good. What is good and what's bad. So Yaakov is coming to say that he represents, how do you say, law and order? Law and order. That's Yaakov. Law and order, and you can add in law and order and blessing. The Jews were chosen. God said to Abraham, you're going to bring blessing to all the people in the world. That's the job of the Jews. The Jews are the chosen people to make a world full of blessings, right? Blessings. I mean, look, look at the other theories of how do you say, the leaders, Napoleon, Stalin, what is it, the Marx, all these people. Their goal is to bring blessing to the world. Is there any method, even the religions, that the purpose is to bring blessing to the world? Think about it for a second, right? Even democracy, even all these, capitalism is to bring blessing to the world. It's being law and order, maybe. I should be the ruler. He should be the ruler. This should be the ruler. Should be no money. Yes, money. There's a capitalism, whatever. Communism. But is anyone have even tried, claimed that that's written on their banner of their how do you say, their mission statement is to bring blessing to the world. Blessing to first of all, blessing from who? Who's going to give the blessing? So Judaism, as far as I know, and you can correct me, but as far as I know, Judaism is the only, how do you say, philosophy, system whose goal is to bring blessing to the world. Blessing to the world. That's what it's supposed to. So that's the whole thing of Yaakov and Eisav. Yaakov wants to bring blessing into the world, and Eisav wants there to be a world. He wants to be a world. That's what we explained yesterday. Yaakov represents what's called tikkun, that the world should be orderly, and that we should law and order, and that will be the vessel for God's blessing. And Eisav wants every man for himself. Don't tell me what to do. That's Eisav's thing. I want it all, and I want it now. Eisav. Okay. So Yaakov, what happens over here? We go. So therefore, all right. So we said Yaakov and Eisav were brothers. They were the sons of Yitzchak. The purpose of Abraham and Isaac, Yitzchak is Isaac. The purpose of Abraham and Yitzchak, and it comes down to Yaakov, but the purpose of Abraham and Yitzchak was exactly that, to bring blessing to the world. That the world should be an orderly place. It should go according to the Torah, and that therefore there will be blessing to the world. The emphasis is not to go to heaven. The emphasis is to fix up. That's what the emphasis is, to fix up this physical world. Okay, so in other words, it comes down to that Yaakov is sort of like just a means to bring blessing into the world, and Eisav is the goal. Eisav is the world. Eisav is the world. So it comes out that Yaakov's thing is not to destroy Eisav so that we Jews should rule and that we shouldn't have any opposition. No, the idea is harmony. The idea is harmony. And the whole essence of what the harmony is Eisav. It's like an orchestra, right? An orchestra. What's the main thing of music? An orchestra is the instruments. Without the instruments, there's no music. But you can write music as much as you want to. There's no beauty. Maybe people who like really understand music, fantastic, musical minds, they can hear the music just by, and even still, there's no inspiration. The whole thing is the same thing. Eisav is like the instruments, the physical world. And Yaakov is like the music. Yaakov he wants to put law and order and bring, blessing and beauty into the world. And Eisav's thing is just everybody go for yourself. Okay. So it says, therefore, now because Eisav is also, he's the son of Yitzchak. So his purpose should be the same thing as Yitzchak, to bring order into the world. But it's not. And that's the whole idea of Yaakov trying to get to Eisav and not defeat him, like he defeated the angel. It is, but to transform him, to transform the world, that the world should be a good place. How does it say they should beat their swords into plowshares? But there's no swords, no plowshares. You have to. That's the way it's supposed to be. Okay. So Yaakov sends to Eisav. That's this week. Vayishlach. Yaakov sends messengers to Eisav. He sends messengers to Eisav. Rashi points out that these were actually angels, because the word for messenger and angel is the same word. But he sends messengers, and he's saying, I'm ready for the unity. I've fixed up all of the spiritual blessings, and they're all ready to be given to you. And did you fix up the world that it can be ready to receive these blessings? And he got a message back from Eisav. I'm going to cut you up. I'm going to destroy you. I am going to just kill you, which was definitely not the message that Yaakov was waiting for. So Yaakov says, well, what am I going to do now? Eisav is coming. He's got 400 men with him, and they're coming. They're going to kill me. Eisav, he's been looking to kill Yaakov for like 34 or 35 years already. He's been looking to kill him. He's been searching around to try to find him. But Yaakov didn't know that. Yaakov thought this time he was working on himself to get rid of his bad urges and bad of this. Now, Yaakov and Eisav are not just two people. They are two people. They're certainly human beings. They're buried in both of them. It says that the head of Eisav is buried in Ma'arat Machpelah together with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And Adam. Adam is also. So they were really human beings. But like human beings, some of them can have a tremendous effect on the world. Tremendous effect on the world. Things that are done. Right? Like you have one person that affects the whole world of basketball. You did something, one person affects, the world of sports or boxing or intellect, or one philosopher or one musician that changes the whole course of music. Well, and these Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, these are people that are coming to change the whole course of human soul. What's the goal of mankind? So is the goal of mankind like Eisav wants, that everybody just for themselves, or is it like Yaakov says that we should serve the Creator and bring blessing to the world? So Yaakov sends his men to Yaakov Malachim. He sends the messengers to Eisav, and he says, Eisav, I hope that you are ready to receive my blessings. The Yeshuva Malachim, and the angels return to Yaakov. Let's make this bigger over here. The Yeshuva Malachim, and the angels returned. The angels, the messengers returned to Yaakov, and they said the word for, okay, say Banu el Achicha. We did what you told us. We went to Yaakov, to Eisav. El Eisav v'gam holech lichrascho, and he's coming to meet you. Arba meotz ish imo, and he has 400 murderers with him. Perish, what does it mean? Shuvas Malachim, what does it mean? These messengers came back. What is it? Kach. She'imiyot, even though Shemachmas Chadet from your side, Ru'ui, it's already fitting, v'nachon, and proper. that they should be drawn down from this level of tohu, this makif, these blessings, from this tremendously high blessings, because you have already been completed, Yaakov, you've completed your service of tikkun. But what can we do? Shamaniya, that the only thing that's preventing this amazing unity and world peace and world blessing is Eisav, who adayin lamata, he's still below. He's still below in what's called the world of the breaking of the vessels. Remember we talked about last time? The Lonis bar Radayim, he's not refined himself at all. He's not ready for any blessings. He is ready for war. How can Eisav bring to you from his source of the makif of Tohu? Okay, again, what do we say? Yaakov and Eisav are brothers. Yaakov comes to bring order and blessing into the world. But Eisav is also a brother. And Eisav comes from even a higher source than Yaakov. Like we said before, the world is the goal. Yaakov is just the means to fix up the world. But the main goal is the world. This separate world. God created the world. That's how the Bible begins. That's this whole business of Judaism and what we're learning about, how we're here. God wants there to be a physical world. That's what he wants. And then after God creates the world, he put man into the world to improve it, even though the world was almost perfect when God created it, but it still had to be fixed up. And we see that how imperfect it was. Man still had the ability to make mistakes. So the first man made a mistake, and it had to wait 2,000 years until Abraham came along and to fix this mistake up. What's the mistake? The mistake is separating the creator from the creation, that the world has its own will, and the world seems to dominate. And that was represent. But really, how can the world dominate? How can the world be stronger and go against God? Because the world has a tremendously high power to it. That's called the light of Tohu. God wants the world to be here, despite the fact that the world opposes God and things like that, and that's the nature of the world. But God wants the world to be here in order that man should choose the right thing and fix up the world. That's what God wants. Why God wants a thing like this, I have no idea. But that's the fact. We've talked about this before. It's like, why did God put your eyes here in your head? Why didn't he put them on the sides of your head? Why not? We have to deal with what is. That's what is. God did it this way. That's how God is. You can't have a doctor that operates on someone and says, I don't want to operate. Heart operation. It's a heart operation. What are you cutting the guy's leg for? Because I don't want the heart to be in the chest. Enough. I'm tired of it. I want the heart to be in the leg. That's ridiculous. You can't do it. You have to deal with things the way they are. So God created a world, and he created a world that is potentially wonderful, infinitely better than heaven, all the heavenly levels. It's more godly, but that's only in potential. And until that potential is reached, is unified with law and order, it's complete confusion. But God wants the world to be here, and the world is represented by Eisav. So he has just tremendous power. If you can use the tremendous power inherent in Eisav, it's the same thing as we said, like in the concert. If you can use the beauty which is found inside of the trumpet, inside of the piano, inside of the violin, right? Then you have an amazing thing. But if not, it's just just wakes up the neighbors. That's all. Just disturbing. So Esav's thing is disturbing. He doesn't care about anybody else, only about himself. That's what's called Tohu. And Yaakov wanted to utilize the power. He wanted to awaken the power which is in Eisav. That's called the lights of the surrounding level of Tohu. It's makif to Tohu. Since Shehu Ba'atzmo, but Eisav can't get fixed up because he's lamata. He's still below. Huh? Because you can't make the orchestra work if the instruments aren't working properly. The instruments are working, or the musicians don't care about music. So you want to fix up the world. The only way to fix up the world is through the Torah. That's the word Rebbe is saying. That's what Mashiach is going to do. And Yaakov is setting the stage for this, to take the world and make the world go according to the Torah so that the world can be a perfect world and receive blessings from God, but the world itself is the goal. The world itself is the goal. So to speak, the Jewish people, we're the chosen people. We're chosen to reveal the tremendous potential which is in the world. We're just means, and we're servants of the world, so to speak. We're public servants. We're chosen to be public servants to fix the world up. That's Yaakov. The messengers came back from Eisav and they said, Eisav is still very, very, very low. For Ryan, what's the proof? Shehu b'shvira. What's the proof that that he is still living in a broken world? Eisav is still in his broken, selfish world. What's the proof? He's coming to meet you. And there's 400 people with him. What are these 400 people? This significant. One second, just 1 second. I got a problem over here. But the cord of this lamp is. There we go. Oh, good. So it says, yeah, Eisav is coming to meet you with 400 men. What are these 400 men? These 400 men are dinim kashim. These are very great severities from the chitzonim, from the external worlds, hanimshachim mitet beti dinim, which come from what's called 400 severe courts of justice, the mishtachim, which exist. Whoa. Like it says in Idra Rabbah. What does it mean? The world is a very severe place. The world is a very severe place. And when everybody just does what they want, so you figure, well, this is great, just have a good time. But then things get really out of hand after a while. They really get out of hand. And all it starts to reveal is that people just really want to feel good, and they're willing to murder each other in order to continue feeling good. That's like the mafia in these things, right? They're willing to do anything in order to feel good. And that the source of this comes from what's called the 400 severe courts of justice, which are in the upper worlds. upper worlds. That's the source. Okay, again, everything that's in the world has a good source to it. There has to be judgment in the world. Judgment is a good thing. But if it's overused, or it's misused, then it's tragedy. Here I just heard that this Assad guy that they just deposed, he killed 800,000 of his own people. Anybody who he thought was going to go against him, like Stalin. Stalin killed millions. Right, but everyone went to a court. Everyone had a trial. The trial took 3 minutes, maybe. The decision was made before the trial, but there was a trial. Right, there was a trial. They just agreed with the decision. It was the same thing with Saddam Hussein. All these terrible dictators, all these nations, it's just awful. How they fell into this thing, all these Arab nations, it's just how they fell into this is just beyond my understanding. But that's the whole idea, that when there is this idea of love and brotherhood and etc., but it's not controlled, then it comes out to be too severe, overly severe. That was Eisav. Eisav came and he said, everybody does what they want, and I do what I want. And what I want is that you should do what I want. The whole world should be under me. That's the 400, the powers of 400 powers of severity. This stems from something very good. It stems from the 400 shekel kesef that Abraham gave to Ephron in order to buy the Marat HaMachpelah, the place of burial. Remember we learned that last week, 2 weeks ago. Shadalit meot shekel, the 400 shekels, the 400 units of silver that he gave. These come from the 400 worlds of desire, the yarti that you inherit the tzaddikim in the future to come. Namely, these are the tremendous high levels of lights and blessing and pleasure from the upper worlds that come down from a level which is called Atik Kadisha. This is Kabbalistic stuff, but the whole thing we're dealing with now is Kabbalistic. These two people, Eisav and Yaakov, they activated these tremendously high levels of spirituality. Yaakov was for good. Eisav was for selfishness. And the Eisav somehow or other were even higher than Yaakov's. So Yaakov wanted to, to draw down Eisav's lights into the physical world. This began with Abraham. Abraham was the first person to wake up these upper worlds, whatever, when he gave the 400 units of silver to this person called Ephron to buy the place of burial in Hebron. This is this level of the 400 levels of pleasure, whatever, from the upper worlds. It comes from a level of Keter, God's crown, which is called Atika Kadisha, which is the connector between the essence of God and the world of Atzilut. This is something like we learned about Lovin, waking up in the morning. Remember Lovin? And this is what's called the level of crown. There's the 10 sfirot, and above the 10 sfirot is what's called the crown. And the crown of God, Keter. And that's the connection between the creator and the creation, between the emanator, God, and the ne'etzalim and the emanations. That's the world of Atzilut. From there it comes down all this pleasure to the tzaddikim in the future world. The future. This is going to be the pleasure that's going to be drawn down to the tzaddikim and the raising of the dead. And little bits of this come and a person goes to heaven. Tremendous pleasure, but the goal is not pleasure. The goal, just pleasure, just shows that God is pleased. But the main thing is to do what God wants in this world, and that's what Yaakov wanted Eisav to do. That's the idea of the 400 worlds of desire. That corresponds with the 400 shekels, 400 coins of silver that Abraham gave to buy this Marat HaMachpelah. And this is called over the socher. It's called 400 units, 400 coins of silver, which are over the socher. Over the socher means, I think common currency is the word. Accepted currency. Over the socher. Just like in the world today, as far as I know, dollars are accepted everywhere. Dollars are accepted everywhere. Dollars is an accepted currency. Well, that's what Abraham gave to this person called Ephron in order to buy this land. He gave him 400 coins of silver over the socher, common currency. So, but the word over the socher also means above, and socher also means to go around. Schor. It's called schor, listen, schor, going around. It says that if a person becomes makes a vow not to eat grapes, but it's permissible for him to go through a vineyard. It's just forbidden for him to eat grapes. So it says, but just to keep away from the whole thing, he should go schor. You go around the vineyard, go around, go far away from it. Schor. So schor means to go around. This level of being going around, this is the level of the makif, the surrounding level that we talked about that Eisav has. This level of the source, the source of Eisav. And that's this level of sechor, going around. So Yaakov wanted to arouse this. He wanted to arouse Eisav to use his power in order to fix up the world. Tet alma de kesufim, these 400 worlds of desire, these are what's called over the socher. This is over, it's above the going around. She'em boim unim shachim, they can be drawn down from the essence of God, shalamayl, which is above, even above this level of keter, of God's crown. For over him, and they come, and nimshachim, they come into this level of keter, this level of crown, which that's the pleasures we had over here. And from there, narin l'tzadikim, they shine to the tzadikim in the future world. That's why Abraham gave them to Ephron. Ephron, this is coming down into the world and to take them out afterwards in a tosfos bracha and an extra blessing. That's the whole idea of Marat HaMachpelah. You remember we learned before the double hay, the kafila ukalisha. We learned about Okay. Suffice it to say that Eisav, even though actually in the world he was terrible, but his source was tremendously high. And his source was really above any sort of levels in the world of even spirituality. It came from the essence of God. The essence of God is that God wants that there should be the potential of evil in the world. It should be potential. And this desire that it should be potential, the ability to go against God, this comes from the essence of God himself. To divert this the potential for evil from evil to good means that you awaken this essence power of God. Why God created evil in the first place. It should be transformed. So that was what Yaakov did. Yaakov prepared the blessing for Eisav to give Eisav the power to reveal his essence, because his essence is higher than that of Yaakov himself. But meanwhile, Shiyordu, these potential, tremendously high lights of Eisav, which come from the higher than Keter, this level of surrounding Sechor. Meantime, it came down so far down. The Eisav, it came down to the 400 murderous, how do you say, the mercenaries of Eisav. Oh, I'm sorry. So if you look at the evil in the world, evil really has a tremendously high source, but it can't be revealed by means of Eisav alone. That's the big mistake that some people make, right? That was Shabbat Tzvi and all these other weirdos, that they realize this, that evil has a tremendously high good source in it, and they figured, okay, so let's go for it. We'll just do evil and we'll make blessings or whatever. That's not how it's done. Even though that's very popular, but that's not how it's done. It has to be done in a gradual way, like Yaakov did, or in simple language, by means of the Torah. But until the Torah fixes up the world, so the world, all this good potential in the world is bad. And that 400 units of spiritual essence pleasure of God comes into the 400 men, murderous men of Eisav. And this is what says that I will clothe the heavens in darkness, and I will put and sackcloth. Sack, sin, kuf is 400. Sin, shin, same letter, is 300, and that's 100. That's the 400 that the world is clothed in sackcloth. We can't see godliness. We can't see anything good. Cain Omer Zal said this is what the rabbis say. HaTorah chogera sak. The Torah puts on a garment of sackcloth. Hainu she nithaveh b'chinas levush sak, that the Torah is wrapped up, covered in sackcloth. These 400 units of selfishness, which the external forces of the world receive from. But in the future, Begomer call up Birurim, when everything is really refined, and that's what Yaakov thought he was going to do now. This is like 4,000 years ago. Yaakov thought that he had already fixed it up, but it's not. It's only going to be fixed up by the Moshiach in the future, where it says that the death will be swallowed up forever. And the spirit of impurity I will take away from the world. As then Yachzir Ephron Hadalad Meot Shekel Kesef. Then Ephron, the one who sold Abraham the Ma'arat HaMachpelah, the place of the burial place in Hebron. So Abraham gave these lights to Ephron, knowing that they were coming, like these 400 units of silver. It says silver is desire. It says 400 units of silver he gave to Ephron, knowing that he was putting it into the world, and that from this could come really bad stuff, and it did. That was the 400 men of Eisav. In the future, Ephron is going to give the money back. The world will return all of its pleasures to their rightful owner. So everyone will get pleasure from doing good. Yaakov knew suddenly, as soon as he saw these 400 men, he knew the 400 men of Eisav were coming to get him. So he realized immediately what this represents. All these bad things we just talked about before, when Yaakov revealed Eisav Meshorsho, that he knew that he could not get Eisav to draw down from Eisav's source of good this level of makif of tohu, asheru mavakesh, that he wanted to, because Eisav himself is trapped in the physical. He can't get up to his source. He thought that Yaakov, now he would be able to, I say, articulate, articulate, I like that word, to properly use the lights of Eisav. He could control this atomic power that Eisav had, that Eisav was only using for bad. Yaakov thought he could do, that Eisav was ready to use this for good. But he was disappointed. Now he realized, I have to fix it up in another way. I have to do more than now it's not enough just fixing myself up, said Yaakov. I have to try to fix up Eisav as well. I have to do Eisav's work for him. In Eisav, there's no other method, advice. Ella sheyamshich, that he has to draw down Yaakov himself. Yaakov himself is going to have to draw down these tremendously high lights into the world. If the world doesn't want to cooperate, then the Jews are going to have to do it on their own. Well, so therefore, just one second. Therefore, Kishida Batzman, when he knew in himself that he himself, Tzorich L'hamshich Makiv, that he himself was going to have to draw down these tremendously high lights that previously Eisav was only privy to, but Eisav could not draw down these high lights because he wasn't concerned with any high lights. He was concerned only with getting pleasure and being selfish in this world, Eisav. So now Yaakov realizes that he has to draw down these lights which are above him. So what do we have before? We had Yaakov is holiness. Eisav is unholiness. But Eisav has, his unholiness comes from a source which is even above Yaakov. And Yaakov knows this. The only way to unlock these tremendously high lights which are above himself and make the world a holy, perfect place is that he has to get to Eisav and get Eisav to desire to draw down these tremendously high blessings. Yaakov revealed that he was wrong. Eisav didn't want to do it. The only way to draw down these lights is through Eisav. You have to work with the world. But what can you do? Eisav wasn't ready. So Yaakov said, well, I'm not going to give up. I'll have to do it on my own. I have to do the whole thing on my own. And therefore, he had to raise up man. He had to do it on his own. Kenegdo, corresponding to Eisav, to draw down this makif surrounding level. Maybe I'm going out on a limb over here, but this is what I think is what's going on over here. Right? Ideally, Jewish people sit and learn Torah, they do the commandments, and that fixes up the world. They sit, they learn Torah, they do the commandments, and the world gets fixed up. The world gets fixed up. They do their part, God does his part, and the world gets fixed up. That's the way it's supposed to be. But thousands of years, Jews have been sitting and learning Torah and doing the commandments, and things just get worse and worse. And there have been people once in a while that stood up and tried to fix it up, and they couldn't. They couldn't do it. Now, in a way, it came to a head. This is like Yaakov and Eisav. It's like the Lubavitcher Rebbe and the state of Israel. The state of Israel, as it is based on not being religious, not God, not Torah, not commandments. They're willing to hold their nose and let religious people in and do the Torah. But no, the main thing is the country and the army and, physical and culture and whatever it is. Okay, but they're Jews. They're Jews. And they did something that the religious people couldn't do. The religious people would never have been able to build a country with an army in it. That just doesn't. And so really the source of this country with the the electricity and water and the army and the things that are working, and that's from a tremendously high source. So ideally, what it's supposed to be is the religious people sit and they learn Torah, and God takes care of the rest. God takes care of the rest. Little by little, people realize, that the religion is the best. Maybe the religious people become the majority and they get elected, whatever it is. But it didn't work that way. It didn't work that way. Things just got worse and lower and worse and lower. So the Lubavitcher Rebbe figured he could fix up the whole thing, and he's going to, take in people and give blessings and things like that. And it's not really 100%, working. So what did the Rebbe do? He said, okay, I'm going to make emissaries. The emissaries are going to go through the whole world, and they're going to do the work. They'll do the work that everybody should do. They'll force people to be confronted with their own Jewish souls. Wake up people from inside and force them. They're not going to do it on their own. I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do what they have to do. Right? So the Rebbe made Chabad houses all over, binyans, institutions, just like, so that here, look, these religious people can also make institutions. They can also do things. I'm saying that this is just a theory of me. You can take this with 100 grains of salt. I'm not saying that it's true or not. This is just what I think. So it's like Yaakov and Eisav, the twin brothers. Yaakov is the religious Torah commandments. Eisav is the normal people, normal human people. What do you need Torah? What do you have to have Shabbos for? What do you have to have kosher food? You can get along without it. Right? But those people are necessary. All the Jewish people. So what did the Rebbe do? The Rebbe says, okay, I'll do the work myself. I'm going to do the whole thing myself. I'm going to appease Eisav and get to his core, to get to the core of Eisav. I'll show him that religious people can also be professors and mathematicians and scientists and fighters in the army and this and that. And I'll show him it can be done. I'll do the work myself. That's what the thing that Yaakov sent to Eisav. He sent these gifts. He sent these gifts to Eisav. And you'll see what he sent them. He sent camels and all sorts of things. This is halat man. This is something like the sacrifices in the temple. What do they do in the temple? In the temple, you brought an animal. The temple, you went to the temple and you actually brought an animal. I remember before I was religious, I read this and I thought, this is just simply insane. I kept looking at the cover of the book. This is the Jewish Bible. A person does a sin and he brings a cow. What if the cow didn't do anything? Doesn't make any. Why do you stop making the cow suffer for a sin that I did? Right? The whole thing doesn't make any sense. And then there were just free will offerings. You could just bring it. You feel good. You bring a sheep to the holy temple and sacrifice. Kill the sheep. What's that? What? Bring a. You feel good. Play a music. Bring a guitar to the holy temple. What do you have to bring a sheep? Kill the sheep. It says, but really, the thing of the sacrifices in the temple was first, number one, doing what God wants. That's what God is the one who creates the sheep and the cows. He creates them. And so you just do what God wants. It doesn't make any sense, number one. But number two, it makes a little bit of sense because you're taking the world and using it for what the Creator wants it to be used for. Even though that doesn't make any sense why God wants sacrifices, but it also doesn't make any sense why does the circulatory system of a sheep have to be so complicated? What? So there's a lot of things that God does that are not understandable. In fact, everything that God does is not understandable if you think about it for a second. So that's the idea. God wants us to elevate the world. That's what's called Mayan Nukvin, feminine waters. When there was the temple, we could do it exactly the way that God wanted. Exactly the way. And when we elevate what's called the physical world, Mayan Nukvin, feminine waters, our desire goes up. That draws down Mayan Duchrin. That gives God pleasure, and God brings blessing down into the world. Okay, in the holy temple, it was very orderly, and therefore the blessings that were commensurately drawn down were also very orderly. But now Yaakov, he wants to draw down blessings from a source which is above order, from this makif of tohu. Therefore, he sent camels to Eisav. The sacrifices he made, first of all, he didn't kill the animals in the holy temple. They killed the animals. He sent living animals to Eisav. This is like making a sacrifice. He's sending them living. He also sent camels, that these are impure animals. You couldn't bring them in the temple, because regarding the surrounding light, darkness is like light. There's no kosher and not kosher. Like we're going to explain down later. We'll discuss that tomorrow, what it is. So according to that, this is how I understand it, and I'm explaining it. Religious people are supposed to just be religious. They're supposed to just sit and learn Torah and do business, and they're supposed to have a little business on the side to make money, whatever, right? And God sends blessing through the money. They say you open up a store, it's just a door to God's blessing. But now it's a little bit, we have to refine Eisav. So we have now, especially the Baal Tshuvas in Chabad, they started this whole thing of people that went through university and decided, I'm going to be a professor, but I'm going to be religious. I'm also going to be religious. Or even more, I'm going to be religious and I'm also going to be a professor. And I'm also going to be a general, and I'm also going to be a scientist, and I'm also going to be a doctor, I'm also going to be a lawyer, right? And I'm not going to work on Shabbos, and I'm not going to eat not kosher food, and I'm not going to cheat, and I'm not going to lie, and I'm not going to, right? And so all of a sudden it reveals that in the physical, doing physical, normal, regular things in the world, which have nothing to do with Torah and mitzvahs, right? Nothing to do with Torah and commandments whatsoever. There was a famous one was what's his name? He lived in Hebron, Baruch Nachshon, that he was a painter. He was a painter, and he painted pictures, and he painted his own original paintings. You can see his paintings all over. I have some, but I don't want to go and get it in my living room. And he was a painter. He painted regular pictures, beautiful colors he has, very, very talented. And the Rebbe said that you have to use that for holiness. You have to do it for holiness. And there were some people that were professors, some people were mathematicians, things which were not necessarily anything to do with Judaism. But that's the idea of elevating the world to get to the source of the world, of the physical world, and then draw down totally new blessings that had never been before, as we're going to talk about tomorrow.